This challenge represents something that's really interesting. In Ontario itself, utilities are going to be allowing their data to flow through to the customer and to the third party. What that means is that we're going to not only empower the customer, we're going to empower innovation. And I think that's a really important part that's going to be happening in evolution. Green button, taken away from the term green button itself, digitization is something that is really needed in the energy industry. We know our banking industry, we know our banking information, we know our telecommunication, we know what we're using on our phone. But we all live in homes, we all use energy, and we all work in businesses. We know nothing about that. So this is an interesting evolution, and it is something that we want the Ontario people and students to understand this, to create jobs. I can honestly tell you, us as the older people in the industry right now, we have no understanding of this data itself. So there's a lot of evolution that we can take forward to this, to be able to allow people to do what they want with it. And that's going to create power, that's going to create saving of money, that's going to create saving of the environment, it's going to have a reduction of greenhouse gases. And that's a very interesting thing. So our two pitches right now is the idea from a residential point of view to see what you can do with the residential customer. We have data, test data that you can look at, and it's real test data that you can look at your billing information and metering information. And out of that information, the interesting thing is it's the true data. So what you take out of that as to creating a greenhouse gas and creating a greenhouse gas output, or the idea of taking a look at somebody from, are they going to be dealing with pricing differences and pricing changes, or the idea of evolution into Internet of Things, for example, into Nest thermostats or any other hardware into the future. This is a huge opportunity for students and for the creation of jobs. And that's the one pitch on the one side. The other one is as important, but a little bit different, is more from the commercial industrial side, from the idea of load and load management. We know that the majority of our energy load is done by our commercial and industrial customers. There's ways to reduce that load. And what we want to do is we want people to take a look at this, or the hackers to take a look at this and see what they can do with that. Now, once again, it may be the idea of just turning around and changing that load into the greenhouse gas output. Or it might be the idea of electrification, which in Ontario is really interesting because Ontario is a very green province. People aren't really aware of that. We have, our nukes, our Niagara Falls, we have our wind, we have our solar. For North America, we are very, very, green from the point of view of our electricity. So electrification means the idea of electrification of cars. It could be the idea of heat pumps. It could be the idea of more efficient machinery. It could be the idea of just analysis and working from a corporate point of view and be able to deal with those things. So the two pitches that we have today are very unique. And once again, I believe from a world point of view, not only from an Ontario point of view, but from a world point of view, it's very exportable. So by bringing these students in and allowing them to take a look at this information, they're going to see things and they're going to work on things that we haven't been able to. And I think that's a very interesting concept. And once again, it'll move on to Daniel in a little while from a conversation point of view. But the point is Ontario has given us, utilities are giving us the opportunity to have access to them for information, which we've never had before. And I find that really interesting. And where it goes is up to the hackers, and it's up to innovation. And believe me, going back to what Jonathan said, the idea of creation of jobs, if you understand this information, there's going to be large opportunities for jobs out there, because we, as being the older generation, we don't know.
That's great, Gary. And we're going to come back to this. I know that a lot of the younger people, well, not just the young people. I mean, I pay my lakefront utility bill, but to your point, I don't understand it the way I understand my bank account. Maybe that's a good thing for lakefront. But what we need to do, what we need to remember is that the younger generation, a lot of them can't even afford a house. So how many of them will have seen a utility bill and understand the consequences of their conservational behavior in the buildings that they're living in and how they're getting around their communities. So this whole notion of electrification is great. And we're going to come back to Daniel after we do the other pitches.